These are the two movies I have just watched. The remake and the original. I'm fine out of the way. This is what we're going to talk about. First, we're going to talk about the original. The original is a horror classic, a great horror movie that is definitely a great one. Now, we all know that the John Carpenter Halloween movies pretty much set the groundwork for the slasher genre. Actually, that was more Black Christmas, but Halloween made it freaking popular. I mean, hell, it led the way for Friday the 13th and A Nightmare on Elm Street. But still, though, the original film is great. And we're going to go over that, and then we're going to go over the remake, which I actually do enjoy. Now, the thing is that, first we're going to talk about probably one of the more obvious things, the music. The music in the original is so well done. It is so creepy, especially that Halloween theme. You can put anything over that theme and it is still creepy. Get a picture of a kitten, put the music on, and the kitten is suddenly creepy. No matter what you have, no matter how freaking adorable it is, the music will make it scary. The music is great and the sound effects are eerie. It sends a chill down your spine. It's kind of like a scream, but less like Eee! And then you have the lighting, as in the atmosphere. The atmosphere is so well done too. During the day, it's all night. It does feel alive and well, but at night, it suddenly dies and has more of an artificial side, and shadows just seem to consume everything. The lighting is so creepy. Everything just looks dark and dead and artificial. That's what makes the movie scary, because it's so artificial, but still scary and alive. And the characters, well, since it's pretty much set the groundwork for the slasher genre, I bet you pretty much think that none of the characters have any development or are just dumb bimbos. That's the case for most of them. There's at least two characters in here that aren't dumbass bimbos. And that is Laurie Strode, played by Jamie Lee Curtis. And yes, this was her first movie that made her popular into the Scream Queen. Yes. And then you have Donald Pleasence's character, Samuel Loomis. Rest in peace, Donald Pleasence. You were, in fact, a great actor. I mean, these two characters are the only ones that aren't complete, that are pretty much supposed to be our main characters, and they are good characters. Samuel Loomis is this doctor that had to experience the demon known as Michael Myers for 15 years, and he completely immerses himself in that. Donald Pleasence does an unbelievable job playing this character. I believe every single line of dialogue he says. Why didn't he get an Oscar for this movie? Seriously, he should have won a freaking Oscar. Rest in peace, Donald Pleasence. Okay. Well, yeah, rest in peace. You were a fantastic actor. Then you have Laurie Strode, played by the young Jamie Lee Curtis. Maybe she was pretty much the first slasher heroine. I never saw Black Christmas, so I barely know anything about that movie. Most of what I know came from the Younger Video Game Nerds review of that. What I love about the character is that she is actually nice. See, with most slasher movies, people are often portrayed to be complete other douchebags or complete freaking idiots. Yeah. And I do really enjoy her character. She is good. And the acting is actually pretty good. That is, it's set with the kid actors, but they're kids. What do you expect? And then you have the one that we all want to talk about, good old-fashioned Michael Myers. Michael Myers is a very sinister villain. He is scary. I mean, hell, the William Shatner mask he's wearing is scary. That mask, creepy. So, yeah, it's a creepy mask that is scary. And he's also he's also like a ninja. Sorry for quoting James Rolfe himself, but that's pretty freaking obvious that he is a sly ninja. He truly is smart and sneaky. It can kill you easily. He's pretty much the reason why people are dying. Yeah, he is definitely a scary motherfucker. And this is definitely him at his scariest. Because it's the only time he never gets a motive. In the crap sequels and in the remake and the remake sequel, he did have a motive for what he's doing. But in the original, he has no motive. He had no motive to kill people, and that's what made him terrifying, that he's just doing this for no good reason. And yes, Michael does walk, which is pretty much a cliche with horror movies. When we get down to it, this one was pretty much the one that popularized the slasher genre, so yeah, you can understand that. So yeah, the original Halloween is a horror masterpiece that everyone should see. But there is one problem with it. The scene when Donald Pleasence's character Samuel Loomis and the sheriff are in the building, the sheriff recommends, why don't we just call in the police force to find Michael? And yeah, that's a good point. I mean, all Samuel Loomis says, just tell your people to be on guard. Are you freaking stupid? That's too freaking stupid. Think about it. You could easily just solve these murders. Hell, there wouldn't even be any murders if you did that. If you did that, no one would have died and no one would have gotten hurt. But no, you just had to keep it secret and let 3 people. I think it's about 3 people. But then there are nitpicks But then there are other problems, but they're more as though nitpicks. Like, how is Michael able to drive a car when he never even got taught? Hell, the characters in the movie talk about it, but no other reviewer I've seen talked about it. The only one that I've seen talk about is Dr. Wolfula. Yes, Dr. Wolfula is also a good reviewer. He's funny, and he's a hell of a lot funnier than me. And he uses an actual script when I don't. Yeah, I don't prefer scripts. They just seem too artificial. So, yeah. But those are more of the nitpicks. So, the original Halloween, a horror classic. The remake, different story. See, I do still enjoy this remake, but let's cover the good first. The good is that Michael is actually scary again. Now, now the original did make Michael scary, but the sequels just made him seem different. The first sequel, Halloween 2, he was still kept a threatening menace, but given a motive. Part 4, yeah, he didn't get such of a motive, but he did still have a motive, and he was still creepy, but not as creepy as before. In Part 5, he definitely seemed still kind of creepy, but not as creepy as before, again with Part 4. And then you had Part 6, which completely fucked it up. Sorry for the cursing, but Part 6, you fucked up Michael Myers. You turned him into a freaking puppet! Yeah, Part 6 was a freaking awful sequel. If you ever have a chance to pass it up, pass it up. And then you have H2O. He was definitely taken more seriously in this movie, but he was still turned into a slapstick clown. Sorry again for quoting James Rolfe. And then in Resurrection, he got the shit kicked out of him by Busta Rhymes. Trick or treat, motherfucker. Yeah, I mean, that was so fucking dumb. But in this movie, he's actually turned back into what he's supposed to be. A badass killing people with almost no motive. That is what Michael is supposed to be. And that is good. And then, of course, you have the other good stuff, like the acting. The acting is still good, and the kid actors are actually a lot better than the ones during the 70s. Yeah. But then you have Scott Taylor Compton. Don't get me wrong, she does do a good job. But no offense, Scott Taylor Compton, but you have probably either one of the weirdest or the weirdest voice I've ever heard. I mean, you seem to be like 17 or 18 or something. At least, well, you looked 16 in this movie. But you sound like you're 10 years old. Not to be mean, but your voice sounds pretty young. And then you have Malcolm McDowell as Dr. Loomis. He was a pretty good replacement for Donald Pleasence, but he's nowhere near as good. He's not as good as Donald Pleasence, but he still does do a good job nonetheless. And then you have the bad elements. Well, when I have to say, this one does give motive for Michael to be a murderer, but I apparently heard that Rob Zombie talked to John Carpenter when remaking this movie, and John Carpenter didn't want Rob Zombie to completely rehash his movie, so he decided to give Michael a little motive. Well, okay, maybe that's not what John Carpenter had in mind, but at least it wasn't a rehash. So, yeah. And it's kind of unrealistic how this world can be filled with so many douchebags. I'm sorry, but I know that they do show, and I know that they are the reason why Michael's evil, but it's so unrealistic to have everyone except 2 people in this world to be a complete douchebag. Okay, Laurie Strode is is a likable character, I do think. But everyone else is such a freaking douchebag! Except for Sheri Moon Zombie and Malcolm McDowell's character. These 3, Laurie, Malcolm McDowell, and Sheri Moon are the only 3 people in this movie that aren't complete assholes. Everyone is a freaking douchebag! Seriously, watch the movie and you'll be dumbfounded of how many assholes this movie has. Yeah. But in my opinion, the movie that does give the movie its theme, an unstoppable evil theme. Like, once Michael was set on this path, the evil that corrupted him would not stop him. He would be cursed because he was set on this path. Yeah, I have to agree. It was good. It was a theme that I enjoyed, and it does something that it hasn't done in a while. The movie's actually scary. Not to be mean, Rob Zombie, but you made Halloween really fucked up. This remake is really brutal and fucked up. He makes it scary again. And to be honest, some of the jerk-offs I actually felt bad when they died. Okay, only one of them, but... So, yeah, I do enjoy both movies. And I have to agree that the remake is nowhere near as good as the original. I would still recommend seeing the remake. But the original is an easier choice. It is by far the better movie. Sure, maybe the bad overweighs the good, but I still think that the good is actually still higher than the bad, and I still do enjoy the remake. Sequel, on the other hand, I do think is good, but yeesh. Freaking weird-ass movie. Well, bye-bye, guys. Next time, we're going to talk about Jason Voorhees, my all-time favorite masked murderer, because I'm a Friday fan. Well, bye-bye. Peace. And be careful not to get macheted.